This video tutorial is all about postnatal recovery training with Steel Mace Vinyasa. So I'm going to go into some depth today about the compensation patterns that happen when you just had a baby. So I gained about 57 pounds with Margaret, and all of that load was sitting here in the front of my body, which basically made me pitch my hips forward and have an excessive lumbar curve in my back. So once she came out of my body, I'm actually going to set her down on the mat. We'll see how she does. Once she came out of my body, notice I'm squatting down and getting her in her ideal shoulder pack position. My compensation pattern was still there. So I was still in hyperlordosis. I had a lot of tightness here in my quadratus lumborum, my QLs, my lats were super tight. So when I started back up with prenatal training, I would just come to the studio, give myself plenty of time, like 90 minutes just to have a flow practice with my baby present. And I'm just gonna walk you through some of the exercises that I did so that you know that you can start from ground zero and build your body up from the ground up and really build a strong foundation for being able to move into more advanced Steel Mace Vinyasa exercises. So I'm gonna start with Margaret right over here, and she's gonna hang out and work on her crawling skills here. So when I first came back to training, I first started with just body weight. So I had my basic squat progressions. I'm gonna keep an eye on Marg. She's like, all right. I might start that over again here. There we go. So when I first started out, I had just body weight squats into shoulder pack. And I had my quad presses very, very much modified. I would lower my knees to the ground, press the elbows to the ground, hang out with Margaret. She was still definitely in her car seat, in her bassinet. Not quite hanging out on the ground when I first started, and I first started about 6 weeks. And then I moved into my static variations of my tactical lunges. So feet hip distance apart, shoulders packed. I started with just small, shallow lunges to build my stamina up, and I would do about 10 on each side and then switch sides. So week 1, week 2 pretty much looked like that. And before I even got to that, I would make sure I did a thorough joint mobility warm-up, and I did my deep inner core exercises as well. And I'll touch on that for a moment here. So some of the exercises that I used to build my core back up were lying toe taps first. So moving one toe up at a time, working on torque, eventually taking the hands behind the head and moving into lying toe taps. Eventually, over time, I could bring my little weight in here, and she's probably gonna drool on me, so we'll just roll with it. So I could use my baby as weight, lying toe taps here, lifting one toe at a time. And she's much happier there. And then of course, we set the baby down. She's so stoked. Are you working out with mama? And roll back up. So Margaret's still getting used to her tummy time and a little bit of standing. I always would take little breaks if she needed me. So just making sure that I'm using proper lifting mechanics so that I can start to even out the asymmetries in my spine. There's a few more really, really helpful things that I did as I started to kind of work out the asymmetries in my lats and in my QLs. So I'm gonna do my best to show you here. Gotta make sure Marg's propped up. She needs rest time too, because she's just learning her tummy time. So I'm always looking at her mechanics, like is she in proper alignment here? So one drill that I found really helpful was the standing big wheel. So notice this is a 3-pound club, and I started with a really light load. So stretching the side body and returning to the starting position. I would do these from mountain pose initially, and eventually moving them into different bases of support like lunges. So here, cartwheel, recoil, again, working on just hollow body position. I would move the mace up into a full horizontal overhead position, the mace or the club. And eventually I started getting brave in working up to a 5-pound and then eventually a 7-pound mace. So here, just holding hollow bodies, essentially stretching the mace up and overhead, keeping glutes on, shoulder pack, keeping everything aligned here really allowed me to get back into that length instead of everything feeling compressed. And I had a 360 swing in my practice before, so I'll make sure that I swing away from Margaret here. So I had my 360 into my squat, was my next progression with the squats, eventually moving into lunges, uppercut lunges. I did them statically at first, and eventually dynamic. Nice work, Margs. So hopefully that gives you some ideas for how to start your postnatal recovery. And even if you've been sedentary for a long time and you're wanting to start out, just know that this practice is very accessible for everyone. And it just takes knowing all of the level 1 work and how to generate torque and really work the fundamentals and the balance and the deep inner core stability that goes along with all those exercises. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I love hearing from you guys, and hopefully you took a little something out of this video tutorial.